All right, our last video was a bit of a heavy one, and in it we worked out, or we took a tour of this form and what happens when we join records together, or we join database tables together by populating tables or individual entries with unique IDs that relate to other records in our database. That's what's allowing us to go to the high jump here or go to the long jump here. And get back all of the records for the long jump. It's also what's allowing us to add in standing jump records. So my standing jump record is 134 centimeters. My next attempt at this was a bit better, 144, etc. And let's add in some triple jump records. I don't know what a good triple jump record is. Let's say that 240 centimeters is a great triple jump effort. We learned that we can also add different records by different users because when we log in as a different user, and we went to add a record for the long jump or for the triple jump. Let's go for the triple jump. Because we're logged in as a different user, when we hit this next page, it says to the database, 250 is my triple jump record as CC, the user CC. It says, take this ID, which is the event ID, take the user's ID, which is in memory all of the time because of the session, and hit add, putting in the event ID, the user's ID, and this entry into the database collection called records. And we'll see those just getting added in here. If I refresh this database here, see my records. I now have 9 records. Each one has its own unique ID, has its created date. It has a ID associated with the jumper. That's the object ID from the accounts table, and an event ID, which is the object ID taken from the events table. And here is the number of centimeters for that jump. Okay, so we just see them getting written in there. We also learned how this page refreshes, and this page retrieves all of those records depending on who the user is, or what the event is rather, and lists the records for that event right here. Let's put a 195 centimeter effort for the high jump right here for user CC. One thing we didn't go over is why these things are sorted in the way they are, and that's back here in the records.js route, and it's at the very bottom here. So what it does when it sends these back, because this is part of these things here, these sort and populate, are related to the record.find here. So when we do record.find, we can add these parameters, dot extra instructions, dot sort and dot populate, which means when we get this record.find every event relating to this event ID, so every high jump record, say, then sort those by the centimeters record. So sort all of the records back, but sort them by the centimeters column, if you like, and populate all of the information of the jumper. Because not only do we want the users or the jumper's ID, but we also want their name. So for every record, populate the jumper in memory, populate the jumper, all of the information relating to the jumper, so that we can then do this in our pug, which is, say, record.jumper.username, because we got back all of the jumper record for that particular record, all of the jumper, the jumper listing for that record. View. All right, I want to do something now that will help you understand deletion. So it's very easy to do deletions. I want to go back to the events page here, and imagine that I've made a mistake here. That the standing jump is going to be or let's say we're not going to have the standing jump as a record anymore. It doesn't belong here. Standing jump is not something we're going to allow people to participate in anymore. What's that? Don't worry about that. We're not going to have that event anymore. So we want to delete this from the database. Very easy to do that. And so I'll just ask you to go to your snippets and look at 8B right here, 8B. And a very easy thing to do. Grab this and put this into the bottom of the events view. So this is the events view back here. I'll close all of these record stuff, and in the events view, not the route, sorry, go to the events view. That's events.pug. This one here right at the bottom, remember we added this before. I'm going to add to this. I'll just put in all of the stuff that I pasted, but we don't want it all. You'll see that it's pretty similar, except all I've done is add a button in here which says delete something, says delete. So I've still got this. I've still got the list group. Still loop through all of the events. I still put in a list group item for every event, but I'm adding to the bottom of this. I'll take this out. I'm adding to the bottom of this a button, and it's classed the danger. It's classed as the danger, and it's classed as float right, which means it'll hang over in the right and it'll be red, so indicating a danger button. And its link, I'm going to add a link to this saying hit the events route and hit the events route file and look for the delete route. Supply it the event for this ID. So for every list item, we're going to say put a new link in behind the scenes, go to the events route file, look for the delete route, and supply it the event ID. And we learned about feeding an event ID into a route in our last video. So go back to the snippet thing and go back to 8A. Go back to 8A. We need this because this is the delete route inside our events route. So grab this route here, grab this code, and we're going to go back to our events route. So this, remember, we're on the events pug. We're trying to delete an event, so we need a new route, not in our model, sorry. Go into routes and open up events. And you can add this anywhere, but I'll just add it at the bottom here. So make some room and I'll add in a new route. And we've now got a new route. So when we hit the, on our events pug, and I need to save this, when we say for every button, we're going to put in, hit the events route file, hit the delete route, and give it the unique ID of the individual the event that we've listed here. It's going to hit this route. When we do that, the delete route with the ID that's provided, and Mongoose just makes it very easy to remove stuff. So it says, anytime you want to remove stuff, you just provide it an ID. So I've said here that we're just going to say that we've got this variable called, or parameter called query. We're going to set that to the incoming ID. We saw how to do that before in our records lesson. And we're going to say, so remember the ID in this query parameter, and we're just going to say remove the query. So remove this ID. If it doesn't error, then send us back to the events page. I hit save on both of those things, and I'm going to refresh now, and we probably need to log in again now. If I refresh the events page, I do need to log in again. I'll log in as AA, and go back to my events page. We should see all of those buttons now. So for every record, we add a delete button. This delete button just goes to the same route but supplies a different ID each time, and it means that I can now delete the standing jump. When I do that, it just deletes the record and sends me back to this page. Get the ID, delete the record for that ID, or delete the event that's got that ID, and then send me back to the events page. So easy to delete stuff using Mongoose, and this is what your route will look like when you want to do that.